Now that you allow me, it would be an honor to present
Thank
my very loved teachers, Connie O'Brien and John Brady. And what they will share now, it's super rarely teach in a Zoom space. So we're so lucky that we're going to talk about the connection between the Hatha Yoga and the Diamond Way teachings. You all know them, and if you don't, they are silent retreat experts. They've done 3-year retreats both, and they travel around the globe to teach and bring ancient wisdom available to us. So thank you for being here.
Hi, Sophie. It's good to be here with you, all of you, as a matter of fact.
Yes, Sophie, thank you for all the hard work. And Francisco and all the translators, thank you so much. Nice to see Pita and very Sandra, thank you. Ivo, Anastasia.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. So we're very grateful to you for your support and for our distributors for support and for our teachers, of course. So I would like to thank more than Sophie. I would like to thank the whole YSI team for all of the work that they've done to pull this kind of a thing together, which means the whole of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because it's a lot of work, and they do it because they love wisdom. That's why I really believe that they do it because of that, and they understand the importance of these teachings. And the importance of creating a beautiful curriculum around teachings like this.
Right.
Will somebody give me a signal if I speak too fast, or if John speaks too fast? Let us know. Okay. So also I'd love to thank Geshe Michael from the bottom of my heart. I know John feels the same way, for having given us these teachings over a period of from 2003 to 2010, really, all of these teachings, but particularly the Hatha Yoga Pradipika was, I think it finished in 2007 or so, 7 or 8. So people like Earle Birney and Michael Johnson, who teach it so beautifully, they really took it into their 3-year retreat and practiced it, as did John, as did myself. But there's something special about Earle as he teaches, and Michael Johnson as well. You can see that their practice of teachings like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika have truly changed their lives, truly changed them and made them better people. I believe they did that for all of us, but I see it very strongly in beautiful teachers like Earle, who was really always a great leader in amongst all of us, because he was the one who ran the campground and did all kinds of cool things at Diamond Mountain in the days we all lived down there before we entered 3-year retreat. So these teachings are so cool because they do help us become the kind of people that we want to become. And they help us become kinder and wiser and more loving. And it's through these really unusual practices you wouldn't think are the things that are the key. They are the key, and there's a few other keys as well, but these are very, very key, I would say, to the final steps to reaching your highest goal, like to actually entering into a completely new and amazing reality. These are key for that. So, YSI, not myself, I don't want to even say that I did any of this, but YSI, like Bob and Sophie, Benji, and I don't want to forget anybody, Lydia, Teresa, Pau, Chrissy, all of these people come together to be able to create a beautiful course with the yoga, with the meditation. with the practice to support the wisdom that Geshe Michael delivers to us. So the full course, I really think that if you do the full course, do all the homeworks and all the quizzes, meet with people and discuss it. Yeah, practice it. Then you actually get what you need to know, and you remember it in your heart, especially when the time is ready for you to use it. If you don't have it in your heart when you are ready to use it, then you'll just forget it. And then there you are, maybe in your 3-year retreat, and you need it, but it's not there in your mind. So I really want to invite everybody to the full course. And then, of course, the fact that Geshe Michael, such an amazing, amazing translator, as I don't have to sell that to you. He saw really the wealth of wisdom in this text. It wasn't a text he would normally study, but he saw it and he took it into his 3-year retreat and he practiced it. So not only did he understand the words, he understood the meaning, which is really important for a practice text. And that's what I'm saying when I ask everybody to join us for the full course, because then you understand the meaning, then you know how to use it. So he finished this course back in the fall of 2007. And he's going to teach it again in 8 days or 7 days. No, 8 days from now starting on January the 19th. So I hope everybody on the call will join us because it is a very rare and precious teaching. Yeah. It's also very rare to have beautiful teachers like Michael Johnson and Earle Birney who make you feel like you're in their home as you learn. So I hope you join us for that. So as you know, my husband, John Brady here, he works hard to save ancient texts like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. He and his whole team do. Thank you, JB, for actually getting up so early.
No, it's an honor to be a part of YSI when I can be. And I distinctly remember when this was taught in New York City between 2006 and 2008, the end of 2007. And it was so exciting because yoga had reached this remarkable place in New York. And it was standing room only. And some of the great yogis that were studio owners in New York City, as well as very noted scholars, would come and take the transmission from Geshe Michael, and it was quite an exciting time. So I remember those days very clearly. Yeah,
I know. Everybody I think on this call and everybody who comes, Francisco will be here, Sophie will be here. It's the same thing. People are going to look back and say, wow, I was there. I was there when they taught it, and it was amazing.
I think the other thing that, we do connect the teachings of Hatha Yoga Pradipika because of the Diamond Way courses of the ACI system and how interrelated the content is directly to that process. So
I had a question actually that I wanted to ask John about the percentage because we were just teaching this content, as John was saying, last night, but under different circumstances to a group of people here in our house, which is why we were a little tired this morning. But I wanted to ask him what percentage of texts in the ALL library actually belong to this kind of content.
The canons that we have in the collection of data that is translated by our translation teams with Geshe Michael and other scholars around the world, the esoteric tradition of yoga, of yoga tantra, is about 58 to 59% of the complete canon from the traditions of the Buddhist systems that go to Lord Buddha. So we have that lineage completely preserved. Yeah.
Okay. So that, what did you say? 57%?
58 to 59%.
59%. So that's a huge proportion of yogic texts, I would say.
Yeah, it's and we don't realize that because most of these teachings and most of the deeper practices that involve yoga are secret, and I think the times that we're living in is they're remarkable times because yoga was very condensed into a small group of people based in India, and now it's. I think Geshe Michael said there are more yoga studios in America than McDonald's, and even though you may not know the wisdom that is brought to you by the creation of yoga from a few thousand years ago, it's changing it's changing your body, and you're starting to open up your subtle body, and that's an amazing phenomena in our time, that yoga and the systematical practices of yoga is a basis to attain these deeper realizations. But the wisdom is missing in most of this time. The wisdom is missing.
Yeah, that's actually, I wanted to ask you about that. The fact that what does that 57% say about the importance of studying a text like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika?
Part of the reason why it hasn't really been available is because there's a gate, and the gate is, are you ready to receive it? And are you ready to understand that you're about to enter traditional practices that you may not have been prepared to actually start to understand and also start to enact in your daily practices. So it's been kept secret for thousands of years.
Except not to yogis.
Not to yogis.
Right?
Well, again, not to yogis in the sense of authentic lineage. So, there is yoga, and then there are authentic lineages of yoga. And I consider our traditions linked with authentic lineage, and they weave through the yogic traditions of ancient India. So they're adopted into the canons of wisdom that are in the database for ALO.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
doesn't mean you realize them when you read them.
That's very true.
No.
But yogis, actually, because they are working with their bodies, and John is very, very regular, I would say, and his practice of yoga is still very awesome at 75. And so he sees the importance of this, as many do, because he's actually felt this in his body. So I want to say that yogis have a special connection to this wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to reveal itself to yogis even before they get the books. They understand something is changing within them just as they practice their yoga. And it's usually a steady practice over a long period of time that changes them. Right. So you started to speak about that connection between yoga and what we call the Diamond Way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the systems of yoga, we call it banging on the pipes, right? The asana practice is one of the main sutras of Patanjali, one of the main 6 practices or more. But primarily, yoga is an outer method that is beginning to prepare you and I for more subtle body experimentation. And subtle body experimentation is the transitional aspect that yoga prepares us to enter into. So the seeds of doing yoga and the seeds of actually beginning the practice of outer methods is automatically preparing the body and also preparing the mind to hear these secret practices that have been anciently kept really controlled until now. And that's the amazing thing. The world needs it now. And we're beginning to see us and others teaching it directly. And I think, in my personal feeling about yoga, is that it's a massively powerful way to change a culture, because it makes you kinder, it makes you healthy and conscious of health and how valuable the instrument of the body is to attain realizations that take you out of suffering. And so, in the context of Diamond Way teachings that we're doing this week with senior students, um, it's so threaded throughout the canons that go back 2,500 years. And it's about winds, channels, and drops. And you're doing that in OISI, and you're going to be definitely taking a plunge in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because it goes directly to the hardwiring of how to get enlightened in one lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a cool thing. It
Yeah.
really is. Using the winds, which is, Lady Naguma's level 2 course. This level that we're talking about in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika III here goes to that level, and it actually helps us access what will be Lady Naguma 3, which are the sounds that you hear in your subtle body. And those sounds are often key to knowing how close you are to being able to enter into a new reality.
And these sounds are being produced by the subtle body, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the winds that travel through the channel systems in our bodies, correct?
Yes.
So, and what does that produce?
Actually, I'm going to go there.
Okay.
JB always likes to go before me, before I'm quite ready. I'm a little slow. So these special sounds that we're going to be talking about that will come in Hatha Yoga, in Lady Naguma level 3, they actually, what does it produce? You mean in terms of actually being in the diamond world? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Okay, yeah. Yes, actually it does. When you enter into that, you are in the direct perception. But the cool thing is about what happens as to a yogi that's different for others is if they are using their winds, if they are using their subtle bodies, they actually come out at a place where their negative emotions, all their negative emotions are already cleaned. It's a very amazing thing. And I think in some ways it's because of these, first of all, the fact that you can do something that is difficult to actually deny or actually confirm that you have achieved something. If you can't confirm or deny, it's in the real realm of the unknown. And that's difficult, but you do see how a person changes when that happens. But second of all, that you actually come out at a level where you don't look different, but you're not somebody who ever gets angry any longer. You're not somebody who ever discriminates for and against things in the wrong way, meaning that I like this and I don't like that, to not understand where this and that come from. You just never misunderstand the world again. And how amazingly beautiful that would be to come out of a perception of something,
Right.
never being able to be jealous again, never being able to try and take something from someone else because you think it's how you should get it, instead of planting the seeds for it. So yeah, the connection is really very deep between yoga and I would say the last parts of somebody who's been studying and meditating for a long time. Normally, all you ever hear from Geshe Michael is that yoga is really good to make your body flexible and help you stay seated for a long period of time comfortably. That's all you usually hear, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
But it's much, much more than that for people who have the seeds to know it. And I think it's very incredible that there are more and more people in the world who do have these seeds. I mean, there are people who have seeds to do yoga, but not necessarily the seeds to know both, to know that there is a very deep, deep connection between using the subtle body. In a way, it's like understanding that seeds create your world and then understanding how to use the 4 steps, right? When you use the 4 steps, it speeds everything up. It takes it to a whole new reality. You can do things in one lifetime that people thought would take many lifetimes just because you're conscious of the process. And that's the same thing here. It's not, let's see, it's not deeply, deeply hidden that way. It's there for us to understand because of the fact that we are using something very consciously. We're trying to understand our inner winds. We're trying to feel them. We're trying to use them. And the first problem of teaching something like this, which is why I think they kept it secret, not just because it's also a self-keeping secret, you have to have the seeds to hear it. It's because if people were to hear this, and we're talking about using some kind of subtle body and these knots that are in our subtle body that we have to open, that we're trying to listen to inner sounds to take us to a very, to help us become better people. Yeah. Sometimes if someone hears that, they would think, oh my God, they're crazy. That's nuts. And that's about the worst thing you could ever do to somebody, is to teach them about something like this lightly and before they're prepared. And the cool thing is that we know that people who have been...
Asana prepares you.
Yeah, asana prepares
us.
Asana prepares us, but I know all of the people I see here on this call, they're prepared because they come and they listen to amazing teachings all the time.
Chance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's a very interesting process because when you have a regular practice of just asana itself, you sense the difference about your emotional balance. There's a pleasantness, maybe not in the asana, but the afterglow of asana usually brings you to an awareness that is different than when you actually got on the mat. And that's actually practical proof that the science of yoga, the actual aspect of how asana positioning is squeezing the channel system. The right and left channel systems are being squeezed, and you're purifying and detoxifying negative emotions through that process. And you come out in a different way than when you started an hour later. And, I think when you are at that place, you want more. Like, why is this? What really is going on in the internal subtle processes of purifying the mind and body, and why yoga is crucial to take the standardized asana practices and then apply them to deeper study, and then understand intellectually what is really going on, which gives you more power in your meditation practice to get in touch on a much deeper level.
Oh, this is cool. I want to actually, when Geshe Michael first taught these these courses way back in the early 2000s, he included these beautiful legendary stories of, very great experts in the practices. And they already were experts at the practices that we're learning in this course. And there's really a beautiful one. It's a story about the great yogi Gorakhcha. And actually, Gorakhcha contributed to the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika, we think, was really an amalgamation, like a collection.
Compendium.
Yeah, put together. So Gorakhcha is one of the people who contributed to it. And it's hard to say when he was born, but it seems like could be around, I don't know, he was somewhere around the time of Lady Naguma, actually, about 1,000 years ago. And his teacher was Matsyendra. Right. So Gorakhcha, the story is that Gorakhcha was in retreat for 12 years. He's in retreat for 12 years, and Matsyendra comes and he tells him, you got to come out. It kind of reminds us of JB and I are only in for 3 years.
Rudely interrupted.
And if we wanted to stay longer. But our teacher told us
we couldn't stay longer. We were kicked out too.
Yes. I'm watching Ivo. If she's moving still, I know I better slow down. Yeah. Thank you, Ivo. So when Gorakhcha comes out, he has this statement and he's kind of proud about it. He says, I'm Gorakhcha. I'm a cow herder. And I'm an expert in herding my cows. This is after being in 12 years of retreat. It's
literal or figurative?
Yes, definitely figurative. He's talking about his central channel and his 2 side channels.
Controlling the winds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch Ivo.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's talking about not allowing them to wander too far, meaning the winds not too far away from the central channel.
Right.
So it's a very strange metaphor, but he makes this statement to his teacher. When his teacher tells him, look, I have this prince who has no arms and no legs, and he needs your help. And you have to go and help him until he can take care of his own basic needs. Well, think about it. Somebody who has no arms and no legs is never going to be able to take care of their own basic needs.
Right.
Gorakhcha does what his teacher asks him to do, but as he leaves, he throws a statement out. And the statement is basically, okay, I trust that you know how to help me herd my cows, basically. So the interesting thing about this story is 12 years of practice. And Gorakhcha wrote a text called the Gorakhcha Samhita. So he's an expert. So he's an expert in the practices that we're talking about. He's an expert after 12 years of meditating. But something's wrong. Something's wrong. He hasn't achieved his goal. So obviously, there must be something more that's needed than just working with your inner winds and meditating. There's definitely something more that we have to do. And it's obvious, it's service, it's looking after others. It's being pulled out of your 3-year retreat and told, you have to go serve and teach.
Right.
So there's a big, big connection. JB, what does service do?
Yeah. Yeah, so you know that all of you on this call are obviously good seeds are popping, right? You're in the system of YSI. You're in the system maybe of other eyes in the organizations, and in some way, the seva, the service that you're doing in life, is getting you re-karmically ignited to have more teachings. There's a correlation.
Mm-hmm.
And the correlation of giving back into not just collective, friends who are still with you in your yoga communities, but beyond that. How do we ignite and then fuel what you're learning to actually have self-realizations? Well, you give it away, and you give it away in skillful ways by serving those who may not have the good seeds that you're experiencing now. So one aspect of our practice is to serve the world.
What does that bring you? That's what I was going to.
Oh, okay. Well, it brings you results. And I think the idea that serving is the trigger point, the moment where your practice starts to ignite bliss. It begins the practice of understanding the nature of reality, but primarily it's getting you free through these practices uh, of our negative emotions. And I believe that you wouldn't be on the call if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
You see that the connection is bringing it into the world skillfully. Like, you got to come to YSI, you're going to learn about subtle winds and drops and channels. We don't push anybody, but skillfully, because you're trained in YSI and your yogis, you find a navigation to bring this into other people's lives. Whether or not it's just bringing them meals that when they're incapable of going out and shopping, or small little acts of kindness actually create exponentially remarkable results as yogis. As yogis, not everyone knows how to do that. And so the byproduct of that is a deeper understanding of experiencing the bliss of wisdom, because there is a component that wisdom doesn't go without, and that's bliss.
Mm.
And the combination of bliss, wisdom, is a yogi's path, and that's using what I can say, maybe using this desire realm of our existence and bringing it to the most refined understanding, because we have the wisdom to use it to go deeper into our self-realization practices. And that's special. That doesn't exist in my culture. That's not taught in our culture directly. You can't go to college for that.
Definitely not. It actually, even for many people, you can hear it being said, or you can't hear it being said, actually, because I know that it comes in our teachings, even in the open teachings, that they talk about this necessity, but you don't necessarily understand that it's like bliss is the wind that emptiness is riding on.
Yeah.
You need those two. If you don't have the one, which comes from serving others, like being kicked out of retreat to go and serve, then wisdom's, even if you have wisdom, you can't get it to where it needs to be. You can't get it deep into your, you can't untie the knots, first of all, can't get the winds into the central channel, and then you can't get them right into that indestructible drop at the center of the heart chakra, the Anahata chakra.
I imagine there's all kinds of questions popping up, but we'll keep going.
I need to ask Sophie. Let me check this chat. There'll be a Q&A let's see, way to the bottom. At the end of this session. Okay, thank you. How much time should we leave to
For
Q&A?
Q&A.
15 minutes?
Thank you, Frank. 10 minutes? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. All righty. So actually, I want to ask GB specifically about his 3-year retreat and using yoga in 3-year retreat and how he felt it changed his 3-year retreat to use the practices that we're going to be learning. These are specific mudras and things in this level of the chakras, doors, and sounds. I just wonder how it affected your capacity to meditate.
Yeah, first of all, yoga asana is the ultimate body opening experience to sit deeply in meditation, right? So people that you know who don't do yoga, usually they're not sitting in a posture that's symmetrically inducing at least the beginning of getting in touch with the subtle mind and body. But yoga, if I didn't have yoga, I would be bent over at this part of my life. And my hips would be so kind of brittle that I'd be having to sit in a chair, which doesn't really appeal to me. So from the practical sense, every 6 days a week, I would do my practice of asana. It gave me the opportunity to sit longer in sessions of meditation and practice for hours. And the purpose of a long retreat is to take what your teacher has been given you. They've taught you for 7 years in systematical practices like Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because it is one of the deepest practice systems, a manual to get yourself free of our mental afflictions and negative emotional states. And so in my normal, so-called normal morning, I would be practicing at 3 a.m., our time, my time, until 6. That was my first session. And when you're deeply in states of awareness from your trained practices, this body, the gross body, in deeper states falls away. You're consciously not engaged in the senses. You're not engaged in irritation. I want to scratch, but this is gone. Your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, sensually, the senses are gone. And then you're sitting in a much more deeper awareness. It's not like you've gone in some way semi-unconscious. You are in a distilled clarity of a beautiful awareness where the winds get so stilled that something else begins to take place in your subtle body. And that's where it gets interesting. Because when the winds settle and you navigate this other body, the subtle body, you begin to, the creation of bliss starts to rise. And then the beginning of a different conscious awareness is applied to that bliss. And that's where your wisdom is essential to navigate the bliss that's being, and I don't want to use the word produced. It's not something that is produced. It's being enacted through the navigation of the winds, dissolving, stilling, and entering the Sushumna Nadi, the central channel. And the beginning of what we consider applied wisdom becomes, in a deep, very deep awareness, a realization that is no longer connected to the words on a page. And I think that's really all I can say. Because that's where we want to take everyone on this call, right?
Yeah. I think one of the very cool things for me is that interconnection between the subtle physical body, getting it ready, serving others, and being able to meditate, plus have the wisdom of knowing how to navigate the inner subtle body. It's very cool.
It's like a GPS of the subtle body.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the fact that we have so many more texts also to kind of corroborate or verify.
Yeah, there's supplemental other ways where a description of a navigation within the subtle body can wake you up to, oh, I can apply that now. And that can bring more stillness into the present moment of the direct experience in deep meditation. So you're right. There's like, oh, we're given so much knowledge, that basically is the GPS to get you out of suffering in one lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I guess I go back to always thinking it's so important though, to take these courses in a way that you don't forget them ever, because you don't want to get to a place of deep meditation and miss out on a crucial thing that, well, I forgot. I should have done that.
Apply it.
Yeah. Apply it now. Never forget, but apply it now. Yeah, it's very, very crucial. I mean, last evening, as we all sat around talking after JB's class, and even during the class, questions are coming up because we've all been practicing a long time. But it's now for many of these students, they're only, after years and years of study, they're only now getting the wisdom that is here in this text, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika text. So it's phenomenal that it's available to you. And it's tricky because you never want to give something too soon to a student unless they, and by too soon, it's, if you understand it, it's never too soon, but you need many parts to come together in order to make it do what it's supposed to do. I guess that's, so part of what we've been talking about is all of our, the things that go wrong, that you wish didn't go wrong, and that you wish for others not to have happen. You wish that everybody who comes after you would have a very smooth, easy process.
Yeah. What Connie is being kind of skillful about telling you is that you're all practitioners, and you're also learning what not to do as much as what to do. And that's the sense of experience that you have in long retreats, because you bump into the what not to do's more frequently than we probably want to admit. But that's another level of wisdom that prevents you from navigating the subtle body and the channels, winds, and drops. And that's something that's off your navigation point in the practice. So as much as the practice tells you that's not it, that's another sinking understanding of where to go next in the correct way. It's very interesting, because you don't want to romance anything, especially meditation, because I think many people who try meditation are really seeing how their mind is functioning under the surface of what they perceive their mind is like. And that's scary.
I want to make a plug actually for Lady Nuguma, because in some ways, these beautiful courses that,
Yeah.
Bob and Earle and Lydia and myself and a few others have put together, those, and Teresa especially, those courses actually help us remove some of those obstacles in a way that were never removed for me before I went into 3-year retreat. To be able to be working already on your negative emotions to stop things from happening that, might happen, that's amazing. To never have to face something that could throw your practice off is really very cool. So to take the negative emotions, again, this is really amazing things that Geshe Michael taught to us. But I obviously didn't spend enough time and study them well. How to use your winds to navigate your emotions and to get rid of those negative emotions. It's very, very cool. And I really, I really advertise that for people's benefit, just because it's fantastic. You're using your subtle body to help navigate the world now so that you can actually do what you need to do to use your mind, to use your subtle body, to use all that service to reach a place that very, very few people ever get to reach, to become that ultimate kind of person. And
all of you are becoming trained to be teachers, and teachers are one of the highest karmic objects I think that the world needs right now. And to have this wisdom distributed through qualified, trained teachers is an extremely beautiful way to serve the world. And I really commend you, because it takes courage to actually be on this path. It does take this idea of warrior courage, because most people don't want to really look under the layers of mind. It's a bit, it can be a bit, what's the word, shocking, because we always are in this other place of busy and social and, nothing but up here. But when you settle down, it takes courage to take a microscope into the mind and see the nature of, what we have to learn as we evolve as human beings, and that takes courage. So I have such admiration for all of you for being on this path.
yes, and it's time to enter the Q&A. I see Stevie said she cannot enter a question into the chat for some reason. Frank,
I could ask the question.
You could. Hi, Stevie.
Hi, Stevie.
Good to hear you.
Thank you for teaching, and thank you for being here. Don't you? I sometimes get really stuck when I think about never having a negative emotion and I'm doing something wrong but don't you really think that the message is that we actually just transform these emotions into wisdom? That's how we use them, that they're an energy that can be transformed versus giving the message of never feeling upset again?
Stevie, thank you for this question.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I know it's both because I encourage people to, when they feel, Stevie's question was translated by everybody, okay? Oh, thank you. Okay. So, because it's really vital. It is both, Stevie. I think when I use these practices, I try to engage with the subtle wind that is associated with that negative emotion. I try to use that wind to transform the negative emotion. But more than that, I use the negative emotion to get at the wind, because I need to know how to navigate those winds, because it's the navigation of those winds that actually takes you to that place where you come out with no more negative emotions. Like you come out at a level that is not simply, basically, let's face it, you come out at nirvana if you use these practices. That's what I'm saying. So yes, use the negative emotion and the wind together to transform both. So get to know your inner winds through the negative emotion. Don't run away from it, as John's always saying. Learn it, know it, but then drop it, because that's what eventually happens anyway. You can't keep the negative emotion. You just can't.
One of the things that you learn over time is the habituation of our human condition. Our karmically, we're all unique. And I don't know, if you would have asked me about 14 hours ago about negative emotions, I mean, I totally got, a storm of negative emotions early evening last night. And it's navigating it, you see, and not like the habits that we endure in life that are brought in, we can say, from previous time, still exist. And to know what trigger points in those moments where winds shift and then something rises that actually is detrimental, that we interact with, usually with another human being, is the great experience of experimentation. Like, how did you react when somebody said something to you yesterday at 7:14 that triggered a negative emotion? And how we pull back and say, how did I create that? That's the first thing that should be coming to mind. Like, why, where in the last 8 years did I create that moment that started to stir up irritation in your mind? And we have to begin very basic understanding to stay in that place where you say, where did I create this? Take ownership. It's not this, as DCI says, it's always this. And whoever is appearing to wake you up to the fact that you still have trigger points for certain emotional, spirals downward is a gift. It's a gift.
So there's another question in here about, they said, we hear about the fact that these practices help us in 3-year retreat, but how does someone use these practices outside of like a deep retreat? And of course, in a way, this is what JB just was talking about. So when it's where you don't get the opportunities, let's face it, it's better to practice in everyday life.
Yep.
It's better to start transforming during everyday life. As long as you do your yoga asana, as long as you are meditating about an hour a day and serving others, you don't have to be in 3-year retreat.
Yeah.
But it is easier to get your mind into a deep state of meditation. So take short, weekly, do a week-long meditation retreat to get yourself deeper.
Yeah, retreat is essential for all of us.
It doesn't have to be 3 years.
It doesn't. No. We were fortunate to do a 3-year retreat. But it's bringing bodhicitta into the world. And maybe the retreat is actually taking an inventory and finding, bodhicitta in you, because then you come into the world with serving and understanding the nature of this realm, this reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to put bodhicitta to work in our world, in our circumstantial reality of family and work and all the things, kids, all the things that happen in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the balance that we have to contain. And retreat is essentially important over, years of your life to check in. It fuels you. It feeds you back. It gives you something more precious every time you go in.
There's another question here from Sandra Rodi, where both of us don't have any glasses on.
Oh, I have glasses.
Do you have your glasses?
No.
Good. Okay. So the other
Should
day,
I study both yoga and ACI?
oh no, the one above that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Sandra.
Ordinary virtues are like metal, iron, and only lead to more samsara. Virtues done with the desire to reach enlightenment.
To help others are magically transformed into the cause of perfect enlightenment and a Buddhist paradise. So the question is, how could we change ordinary virtues to be done with the desire to attain enlightenment? That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful question.
Can I start it?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. I think it's seeing the nature of samsara that pushes you to understand your own suffering, to want to get out so badly that, and you see the suffering in the world around you. Even it seems to be, it never leaves us if we're here. It comes and it hits you when you least expect it. And it seems to be even more painful because everything's been going good for so long, then suddenly something hurts. Who wants to live with that kind of pain? Or there's gross pain every day for people in the world. It's, if you feel that deeply, that pushes you to want to get out. That push is what is saying, I want to get to enlightenment and I want to do it and stop it for everybody else. That is the motivation that turns what you do, the difference between eating. We were talking about this the other day too, the difference of eating as somebody who is like a, let's face it, somebody who has just certain ordinary views and they think, well, I'm eating this or having this water. It's like it's always going to take from the world. Even if you are living a very sattvic life, you hurt many beings just by drinking a glass of water. It's impossible not to hurt living beings.
The nature of this realm, actually. We live in a realm that is conducive to practice.
Right. When you bring your motivation up that much higher and you think, I want to drink this water so that I can keep serving living beings, it takes away that that harm. The motivation does something to the regular, what you would think of as being harm, that transforms. And then you have a much greater capacity to get free and to reach your goal. Sorry,
No, that's great.
It is.
Say no more.
And, so I think it's time for me and John to invite everybody who's on this call to please join us. Please join the YSI team. Beautiful, beautiful YSI team, and all of they spend months preparing a beautiful course and a beautiful opportunity to be with Geshe Michael. Join us in person if you can, and if not, please join us online. The registration is in the chat right now. Thank you all so much for joining us. And yes, this course is really wonderful. Please join us for the entire course. It's such a beautiful experience to study with Geshe Michael and Earle Birney and Michael Johnson. And thank you, Benji's here. Thank you for telling everybody about the scholarships that are available through your distributors. So if you wish to join us, please find your local distributor and join through them. Please, please come. We'd love to see you.
Max is on the call. Hey, Max.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it's so nice. We're seeing all the
Good to see
names.
you.
We love you all. Please come. JP and his team are coming. Thank you.
Bye.